With the 2025 NFL trade deadline coming and going, we have to discuss and recap the most significant moves that took place. And I would say that in the past 5 to 10 years, this has to be the biggest blockbuster trade deadline. We saw 2 big moves, both coming from the New York Jets as they made moves, trading 2 of their defensive cornerstones in Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts and Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys, alongside with other moves like a Rashid Shaheed going to the Seattle Seahawks, making that offense even more explosive, Jacoby Myers being traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and other moves like the Philadelphia Eagles trading for Jalen Phillips this past Monday, alongside also trading for a player like a Jair Alexander from the Baltimore Ravens. Players to that nature, Jermont Jones going to the Baltimore Ravens, and also the Dallas Cowboys acquiring Logan Wilson. Just a lot to talk about in this video from a trade deadline perspective, but also with that, I'm intertwining this video with my NFL Power Rankings video heading into NFL Week 10, and that'll also be a reaction based on what happened from not only the trade deadline, but also what happened from the games in Week 9 and how teams continue to trend going forward from a health standpoint, their schedule and returning players, things of that nature. And also, I want to stress for my Power Rankings videos another criteria that I continue to use. Just because your team, for example, a few weeks ago, the New York Giants beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 6, would it have made sense for me to put the Giants above the Eagles in Power Rankings? No. So just because a team necessarily beats another doesn't mean they should definitively be above that team heading into the following week. But I just want to contextualize that furthermore. But before I get into the Power Rankings heading into NFL Week 10, let's talk about these trades. But before I talk about that, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram /Twitter and X at SwaggyRuss, and TikTok at SwaggyRuss2 for shorts, reels, all content and things of that nature. More NFL and NBA videos on the way, but let's talk about this active and crazy NFL trade deadline. Get specifically into each of these individual deals. I have to give props to the New York Jets for recognizing that it's time for them to just go into a full rebuild. They're not going anywhere. They've had some talent, obviously, with a Quinnen Williams, with Sauce Gardner, with players even like Breece Hall, players to that nature who I'm surprised, and pretty much everyone in the NFL community is surprised that Breece Hall wasn't dealt. They recognized the writing on the wall, that it was inevitable that they were just going to need to go into a full rebuild, and they acquired a lot of assets. If you look at the next 2 drafts, in 2026, they have their own first-round pick, they have the Colts first-round pick, their own second-round pick, and the Dallas Cowboys second-round pick. So 4 picks in the first 2 rounds of the 2026 draft, but 2027 is where it gets even more intriguing and interesting, as they will have 3 first-round picks, their own first-round pick, 1 from the Cowboys, and then 1 from the Colts. We're going to see what they do with that. Now, we have to also talk about it because in 2022, the Jets did have 3 first-round picks there, and I mean, I would say they hit on those picks in terms of drafting a Garrett Wilson, drafting Sauce Gardner, and drafting Jermaine Johnson. But look where we are now 3 years later. This team is still one of the worst in the league, and they only have 1 win in the 2025 season. So with that being said, it's about how they execute. I think this obviously shapes up for them to potentially either draft their quarterback in the next 2 drafts or use some of those assets to trade for a quarterback, things to that nature as well too, because we all know that they have Aaron Glenn as the head coach. He was a part of that rebuild as a defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, and we know the type of franchise that the Lions were before the past few years, being one of the best in the league. They're one of the doormat franchises in the NFL, and look where they are now. Jets probably want to follow a similar philosophy of that, and I've seen a lot of comparisons from an NBA perspective talking about the Jets being similar to OKC, acquiring these assets and stuff like that too. But to be similar to an OKC and build a potential championship contender like the Thunder in the NBA, you have to make sure that you hit on those picks and that you have the proper personnel and coaching in place to actually build a team that can sustain real success. But with that out of the way about what the Jets acquired, let's talk about what they dealt away. The first blockbuster trade, trading away Sauce Gardner, which really came out of nowhere, but you can't blame the Jets for taking this trade. The Colts being ultra aggressive, trading for Sauce Gardner, sending 2 first-round picks and wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. It's clear that the Colts are all in for this season and season beyond, and that they're all in as Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback, and they're trying to open up a real Super Bowl window. Yeah, they had that loss in Week 9 against the Steelers. I mean, that's going to happen and stuff like that too, but they're trying to acquire the number 1 seed for this 2025 NFL season in the AFC playoffs, so the playoffs will go through them in the AFC and continue to build on that. And Sauce Gardner, I know the past couple of years maybe haven't been the most productive in terms of what we've seen from him in his first 2 years in the NFL, but he's still one of the best corners in the league, and I think that him adapting into that system in Indianapolis, playing alongside secondary players like a Cam Bynum, Javarius Ward, being in the system under Lou Anarumo, who has set the Colts having one of the best total defenses in the league and being one of the top defenses in takeaways. I think that's only going to help their defense continue to improve and potentially have one of the best secondaries in the league, and Sauce Gardner adding to that on his new deal that he just signed an extension with the Jets this past offseason. That's just perfect for them to continue to build on their defense, to have an overall great team on all 3 phases of the football, defensively, offensively, and on special teams, but obviously this is focused on the defense. So I like that trade for the Colts. If anything, if I'm gonna grade this trade for the Colts, I would give it a solid B+, and the only reason why I say that is because you better end up winning a Super Bowl, or at least making a Super Bowl in this window with Daniel Jones and this roster currently constructed, Jonathan Taylor, players to that nature as well too. Their offense is one of the best in the league, so we recognize that. I just think think that, I mean, if you look at it from a comparison standpoint, the Green Bay Packers gave up 2 first-round picks and a player for Micah Parsons. This is essentially the same thing with the Colts giving up 2 first-round picks and a player for a Sauce Gardner, hiring him from the Jets. So we'll see how it all unfolds. Like I said, I think it's a B+, and I think it's going to be a really good move. We'll see how it goes throughout the rest of this season, because the Colts, they have a great shot in the AFC to do some great things, especially with not only the AFC, but the NFL in general being wide open. But I think it was a solid move for the Colts, but a great one for the Jets, because really it was one that they couldn't pass up, acquiring additional first-round picks, and they'd have a treasure chest in terms of future draft assets for sure. Now moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, and Jerry Jones teased on Monday before Monday Night Football where they got embarrassed essentially against the Cardinals. There will be some deals in place to be made. We saw at first on Tuesday they traded for linebacker Logan Wilson, which I think he's going to be a really solid linebacker for them. Him and DeMarvion Overshown returning in the Raiders game after their bye. Potentially be your 2 top linebackers already. That immediately improves that room, because Kenneth Murray hadn't been getting the job done. Their rookie Shamar James isn't ready yet. So adding Logan Wilson to that linebacker room and DeMarvion Overshown being one of the best linebackers in the league returning off of injury, that's going to be perfect for them. But we all know and recognize the biggest deal for the Dallas Cowboys, which no one saw coming, but we should have recognized, because before the season when Micah Parsons was traded, the Cowboys initially had talks with the New York Jets trying to trade Micah Parsons to New York for Quinnen Williams, but it didn't go through. But they were finally able to get Quinnen Williams and acquire him, as the Dallas Cowboys traded their 2026 second-round pick and their 2027 first-round pick, alongside of adding in Mozzie Smith in the trade. Still to be determined if it's going to be the Dallas first-round pick in 2027 or the Green Bay one. But they got Quinnen Williams, who still has several years left on his contract, and a lot of people are talking about why, it doesn't make sense for the Dallas Cowboys, the season's already over and things of that nature as well too. I've talked about it ad nauseum, but this Dallas Cowboys team in 2018, before they made the Amari Cooper trade, they were 3-5. What record do they have right now? They're 3-5-1. And in 2018, after they made that Amari Cooper trade, they ended up going 10-6 and made a divisional round in the NFC playoffs. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen this season, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's out of the realm of possibility. All they have to do is get hot. I know that their upcoming schedule is going to be tough after this Raiders game, which they should win. And obviously we said they should have won in the Cardinals game, but we saw how that went. But I think adding Quinnen Williams and yes, Logan Wilson as well too, and DeMarvion Overshown and their rookie cornerback Shavon Revel is going to help provide some reinforcements to that defense. And I know it's going to be tough against the Eagles, and then playing the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, and then finishing off with the Commanders and Giants. But if anything, obviously this move for Quinnen Williams and also Logan Wilson, who both of these players, they have several years left on their contracts, so they're going to be able to help the Cowboys beyond 2025. It helps them in 2025 too as well though too, and I wouldn't necessarily count the Cowboys out for potentially trying to make a wild card run and being solid to finish off the season, because they still have one of the best offenses in the league. Yeah, they didn't play great at all against the Cardinals and the Broncos, but I think that when you bring a defensive anchor like a Quinnen Williams, who with him and Jeffrey Simmons, they're the best 2 defensive tackles in the league for sure. You bring a force multiplier like that back on your defense, who also has continuity and familiarity with their defensive line coach and Aaron Whitecotton, that's only going to do nothing but help the Dallas Cowboys for sure. So maybe it doesn't turn them into Super Bowl contenders this year, but it gives them a chance to try to fight for the playoffs this season and beyond in 2026 and 2027, help rebuild that defense to really go on a run in this 4-year window with Dak Prescott, Brian Schottenheimer, and other players. So the grade that I would give for the Dallas Cowboys trading for not only Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, I would say it's probably around a B+ as well too. I would say a B+ for 2025, but an A for 2026 and 2027 for sure. So I think it's a solid move for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think it's a really good move for the Jets. It'll be even better for the Jets if they're able to hit on those draft picks too, but that's also to be determined. Now, other moves that we have to discuss, of course, like I talked about a little bit in the intro, Jalen Phillips being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 3rd-round pick. It could be a rental. They could end up extending him after the season, but I really like how he provides from a pass rush standpoint, and also he has familiarity with their defensive coordinator and Vic Fangio, as Fangio was a defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins in 2023. So reuniting them two together, and also just being able to have a defensive player to help rush a passer alongside with players like a Jalen Carter and players to that nature, I think that helps Philadelphia be solid for sure and improve their defense overall. And for me, I mean, trading for Jair Alexander, maybe the scheme fit wasn't right in Baltimore in the few games that he played this year, but I'm not really too moved by it. He hasn't necessarily been the same player that he was in his earlier years with the Green Bay Packers. But overall, though, if I want to grade the move for the Eagles trading for Jalen Phillips, I would probably give that a B+ as well. I know I've had a lot of B+, guys, but I mean, for me to get an A on here, I mean, it has to be really a great move. And I know Sauce Gardner going to the Colts is a great move. The Quinnen Williams going to Dallas, I said it's going to be an A for 2026 and 2027, but a B+ plus for right now. But I just think that these moves, yes, they're great. They're not necessarily ones that like you're gonna see instant payoff with. Maybe except for a Sauce Gardner if they're able to, like I said, make the Super Bowl, make a deep playoff run, things of that nature as well too. But I like what the Eagles did from that perspective. The Seattle Seahawks trading for Rashid Shaheed, trading their 4th and 5th round picks for the 2026 draft. And this could be a rental. It could be something they try to extend with Rashid Shaheed. But I know one thing, he's gonna add more explosiveness to an already explosive offense that's one of the best in the league. We see JSN, Justin Smith and Jigba having the best wide receiver season of the 2025 season so far in his 3rd season. Sam Darnold playing at a high level. They have a lot of weapons. Aurora, AJ Barner, players of that nature. Cooper Kupp, who didn't play the past couple of games, but still, I believe that Rashid Shaheed adding even another dimension to this explosive offense just helps the Seahawks be another team that tries to open up a Super Bowl window as well. They're already one of the best in the NFC. They currently have a 6-2 record, and they're trying to do all that they can do to win the NFC West alongside trying to teeter off the Los Angeles Rams. I love that move for the Seattle Seahawks, and if anything, this for me is actually an A-. I just really like the move. The only reason why I wouldn't put it as a potential A or A+ is because it could be a rental. Rashid Shaheed could end up going somewhere else in free agency, but I like what it does for the 2025 season for the Seattle Seahawks. And trading their 4th and 5th round picks, I mean, like less need for the Rams said, F them picks if you can win a Super Bowl. So I think that that's a great thing for the Seahawks to do, and I like that they traded for Rashid Shaheed. Lesser moves, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're bad. The Jacksonville Jaguars, after actually beating the Raiders in overtime in Week 9, they made a deal with the Raiders, trading for wide receiver Jacoby Myers, as Travis Hunter is on IR right now and Brian Thomas Jr. is dealing with some nagging injuries but still playing through them. The Jaguars traded away their 4th and 6th round picks for 2026, acquiring Jacoby Myers, and that could also be a rental. Now for this one, I would say it's a B-, not because Jacoby Myers isn't a really good wide receiver, but it's just because if you don't end up extending him, and also, like I said, you already have Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr., who has been involved for some reason in trade conversations, which makes absolutely no sense to me. It's mind-boggling, as he's still only in his 2nd season and he still has had great production, maybe not this year as much, but still. I just don't see why they do it if it's just going to be a rental. But if anything, I would have liked to see a team like the Buffalo Bills try to trade for Jacoby Myers, even the Rashid Shaheed as well too, because they haven't had that explosiveness to their offense potentially that could make them even further potent to be real Super Bowl contenders. But I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's not going to hurt them necessarily. From right now, they're 5-3 and they're trying to make the wild card in the playoffs, because I think that the Colts are going to end up winning the AFC South. But for me, it's a solid move for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I wouldn't say it's nothing monumental or nothing that's like to say that they're the biggest winners of this trade deadline. The lesser moves that we can run through real quick: the Los Angeles Chargers trading for offensive lineman Trevor Penning for a 2027 6th round pick. The Chargers had to do that with a lot of offensive line injuries like a Rashawn Slater before the season, and Joe Alt now being out for the season as well too. They had to add some more offensive line help so they can protect Justin Herbert and accomplish what they're trying to do from a run game perspective, especially when Omarion Hampton returns. So I think that's a solid move right there. I'll probably give that a B-. Then other moves like a Jermont Jones being traded from the Titans to the Baltimore Ravens, adding another potential pass rusher and defensive lineman for the Ravens defense that's trying to improve as they have gotten more healthy now, and with the return of Lamar Jackson, they're trying to go on a real playoff run. I like that move for them as well too. I'll probably give that a B as well. And just those are mostly the biggest deals to take away, I would say. But I think it was definitely an interesting trade deadline, and we're going to see how a lot of these teams build throughout the rest of this season with those moves, but also, you know, from a long-term perspective for players that have multiple years under contract. So like I said, it was a very eventful NFL trade deadline, and y'all let me know who y'all think some of the biggest winners were from this NFL trade deadline. For me, I think the Jets, it's to be determined on them from a draft pick standpoint. Yes, you want to have that many picks, but also you don't want to miss on those picks because that can set your franchise back even further more. So I would say the Colts, they're definitely winners. I think the Cowboys, even despite a lot of people thinking that their season is over with the record they have right now, I think that they are winners not only for 2026 and 2027, but they still have a chance to potentially try to make the playoffs in 2025 this year as well too. So let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. The Seahawks are winners as well too. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily say the Jaguars are winners outright, but I think it is a solid move nevertheless. Now, in a rapid fire style, talking about my power rankings heading into NFL Week 10, with teams like the Chiefs losing, the Packers losing to the Panthers, and the Colts losing to the Steelers, even though the Colts barely moved in my power rankings compared to last week, I had to rearrange it. So yes, I had the Philadelphia Eagles rounding up at number 1, coming off of their bye week, having a 6-2 record right now. The Rams only having 2 losses as well too. Same with the Seahawks. They're playing really good football. And the Colts at 4, with the Patriots at 5. All those teams have 2 losses right now, and the Bills are at 6 right now as well too. I just think that right now, like I continue to say throughout this entire season, there's no definitive team that's the best right now, and it's going to be a lot of potential week-to-week changes at the top of these power rankings for this NFL season leading up to the rest of the season and into the playoffs, just because that no one has really separated themselves. And I truly think that no one for the rest of the season is going to separate themselves. I mean, we're a little bit past the half point now. I mean, we're going into week 10, have 8 more weeks of full football before the playoffs. I just think that we are where we are, and we're going to have a great year and great playoffs in terms of not knowing necessarily who's going to be the best team in the league. And you may have some conversations with me after the top 5, you know, like I said, the Bills at 6, Detroit at 7. I think Detroit losing to the Vikings, I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world because the Vikings are a 500 team. We recognize Kevin O'Connell being one of the best coaches in the league and having one of the best defenses in the league under defensive coordinator Brian Flores. But I just think that that's a loss that you don't want to have in the division, especially with JJ McCarthy returning in his first game since week 2. I'm like, dang. But they're still one of the best teams in the league, Detroit is, and I think that they are going to potentially move up in weeks to come. The Buccaneers as well, too. They need to get more healthy for sure. Bucky Irvin and Chris Godwin, according to Adam Schefter, weren't spotted practicing today, so that's crazy to me, especially from a Bucky Irvin, because he's been out for weeks now. So, man, they need him back desperately, I would say, for sure. The Chiefs losing in the fashion that they did to the Bills, not necessarily because they aren't still a really good team. It's just because they lack a running game, and that's really going to bite them in the butts, potentially for the rest of the season and potentially in the playoffs, because you need that, especially if you don't want to rely, which you can rely on Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's the best quarterback in the league when it matters most, but Patrick Mahomes with a running game would be insane, but right now they just lack that right now. So to me, they're right there. The Denver Broncos right underneath. Even though the Broncos have a better record right now, I still would take the Chiefs over them. We're going to see them play against them, obviously, in the same division very soon in this season, so I'll either eat my word or stay firm on what I'm saying about that. But just for me, though, I mean, I still think the Chiefs and Broncos, I mean, they're top 10 teams right now, and the Packers are right outside the top 10, especially because of that loss against the Panthers. But I mean, we have to put respect on the Panthers, man. I mean, they're 5-4 for a reason right now. Seems like the Bears are 5-3. San Francisco, amidst all the injuries, they're still 6-3, and the Chargers only have 3 losses still as well, too. And Pittsburgh, like I said, they beat the Colts. A lot of those teams I can see them being in the playoff picture, but we get further into it beyond that. Jacksonville still has a chance to be in the wild card. So does Minnesota in the NFC. The Ravens, I think they're going to continue to climb up and make things very interesting. Like I said, making that trade for Jermont Jones and their defense getting healthy and having the biggest piece that matters the most to their team and Lamar Jackson back. That's a great and favorable thing for them for sure. And about the Cowboys, man, I think they have a shot to potentially try to make the playoffs in the NFC this year. Their defense looks god-awful, I know it, but making moves for a Quinnen Williams, trading for Logan Wilson, DeMarvion Overshown, like I mentioned earlier, one of the best linebackers in the game returning off of injury. Shavon Rever, the rookie cornerback who they drafted in the 3rd round this year out of East Carolina, who would have been a 1st-round pick if he didn't tear his ACL in the 2024 season. Him returning in the secondary, that'll help because they need a lot of help there, especially how we saw Deron Bland get absolutely baked by Marvin Harrison Jr. Stephon Diggs being out, I still think that they should try to sign Stephon Gilmore. That would help, but regardless, I think the Cowboys, they can go potentially try to obviously make the playoffs this year, but like I said, those moves build some structure for them in 2026 and 2027 to try to open up a real window. For my people in Houston, because I'm obviously from Houston, y'all saying, how are we behind the Dallas Cowboys? We have one of the best defenses in the league. Yes, but you have one of the worst offenses in the league, and right now CJ Stroud is in concussion protocol, so that plays a huge role in that as well too. And the Arizona Cardinals, I know they won over the Cowboys and Jacoby Brissett played well, but let's be real for ourselves, this team is still not great, and they lost 5 games in a row before that. So that's the full list right there for my power rankings heading into NFL Week 10. If you look at the bottom of the list, I mean, really it's a Russian roulette of who's the worst between the Titans, Jets, Raiders, so pick and choose what you want with that. But I just think it's an accurate list, so y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments down below, what you learned from this NFL trade deadline, a very eventful one like I said, and what do y'all think about my power rankings going into NFL Week 10? Do you agree? Would you switch some around? Do you think it's accurate? Y'all let me know in the comments down below, guys. But y'all keep being blessed. Like I said, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram at SwaggyRest and connect on social media and things of that nature. Know that you are loved. God loves you, and He has so many great things for you guys. Keep Jesus at the center of your lives always. And yeah, like I said, a lot more heat on the way, guys. So y'all keep being blessed. I love y'all. Hope y'all are enjoying these last couple of months of 2025. It's crazy. This year has moved by so fast. Enjoy this football season. Enjoy the NBA season being back, and a lot of great things to come. So y'all keep being legendary, being blessed. I love y'all, and y'all have a good one. Peace.